giving parents the knowledge and the perspectives that they need and the support they need reduces the need for more sleep training oriented or separation-based strategies in the first place. And that is a better place to start than telling them not to do it and to deny what is working.
Welcome to the Baby Sleep Connection, a podcast that explores baby sleep and more through the lens of attachment and development. I'm your host, Heather Boyd. I'm a mom of 3, an occupational therapist, and a certified infant and family sleep specialist. If you are a tired parent who wants to support your baby sleep holistically, keep listening as we delve into approaches that go well beyond the usual strategies of wake windows and bedtime routines. Your baby's sleep is connected with so much more. If you're an allied health professional or healthcare provider working with families of infants or very young children, you've probably come across families who are really struggling with their baby's sleep. But like most healthcare professionals, you're probably short on time, lack the resources, and you don't have a credible source of information to go to. The Foundations of Infant Sleep for Allied Health Professionals is my answer to those challenges. This is a 2-hour workshop, both live and recorded so that you can go at your own pace, where we go through the development of sleep, the evidence to support the various strategies to support sleep, and how you can help your families navigate this stage of parenting and this stage of infant development. Learn more by going to familysleep.ca/professional-workshop. Hope to see you there. Welcome back to the Baby Sleep Connection podcast. I'm your host, Heather Boyd, and I have part 2 of Sleep Emergencies. Last week, I did a podcast episode that covered the basics of what a sleep emergency is and how it will differ from a mental health crisis requiring medical intervention, and how it differs from a scenario where typical sleep coaching is going to support a family just fine. I alluded in that podcast episode that my practice has become less about parents coming to me saying, tell me this is normal and that we aren't messing it up, or parents that are saying, things are going really well actually, and we just want it to keep going well. What can we do to increase the chance of that happening? And has become much more about families that have reached the end of their tether with patients, with sleep deprivation and fragmented sleep, with overwhelm around the expectations around what they should or shouldn't do to support sleep. And so I have always had parents reaching out in highly tense or crisis situations, but the balance has definitely tipped towards more intense sleep situations happening than it used to. I would say it used to be a vast majority was about helping parents understand what normal sleep development was, and then what to do about supporting it in a way that used less energy, gave them more confidence that things were on the right track and to just keep going. And so this discussion around sleep emergencies, I think, is really, really important in an age when, and by age, I mean 2 things. One is the present day world is so full of stressors and too much information that's often not the right kind of information that you need to feel supported and to actually do something to support your baby or to feel better yourself from a sleep perspective or just from a parenting perspective. And so in this day and age, understanding when and what kind of support to reach out to get is critical. I think also for those parents whose babies are at ages that are high intensity, or who have temperaments or sensory nervous systems that need support, it becomes even more important to get families the support they need when they need it before it gets to a sleep emergency or a mental health crisis. That's what I want to talk to you about today, because although last week was about those 3 scenarios, mental health crisis, sleep emergency, or sleep coaching, I think if we can do some preventative measures, then we're even better off, because we don't want to have to get to a point where we are at the end of our tether. And so that's what this episode is all about. I would say I want to add another little piece about what state families are in when they're reaching out to me. They are often, and you might resonate with this, maxed out, burnt out, and full of shame. And I want to talk about the shame piece. Of course, if you know anything about shame, it might be through Brene Brown. So if that resonates with you, I think it is such a valuable perspective and a valuable lens to look at things through. When parents are coming to me, they have a lot of shame around losing patience or not showing up as the patient, loving mother that they thought they would be, or that they want to be, or that they used to be before they were exhausted. There's also a lot of shame about what strategies parents are doing that is not working. We're doing all the right things. We're doing what the Instagram influencer says to do, and it's still not working. Or we're doing what this book says to do, and it's still not working. Side note, because I'm going all over the place with my ideas in my head, and I want to make sure that you know that one of the primary ways to get out of this idea of being ashamed about not doing or doing things that are not working, we're often so inundated with information from others that has no bearing on our baby or our family situation. And so I always remind parents to look at the baby in front of you. Forget the books, forget the coaches, forget me. Like, just look at your baby and look at what is it that they need from us, like me, my partner, our wider community, to be able to feel safe and secure and to make this easier. And the other piece is, what is it that I can do? Like, you as a parent, what can I do that is easier and still safe so that my baby can get to sleep? It does not have to follow the rules of what you're supposed to do or not supposed to do, as long as it is safe. The other aspect of shame that I often see is that families are full of shame that one of the strategies that they're using is bad. Whether it's nursing to sleep is a bad habit, whether bed sharing is like something you never ever should do if you love your child, whether it's rocking them to sleep that's working, but you think you're not supposed to, then you're using a lot of your very meager reserves of energy and wellness on feeling ashamed about the strategies that you are using that are working. I just did a recent podcast guest interview. The podcast is Make Joy Normal. I did a guest interview with Bonnie. She had listener questions that were all related to bed sharing. It has led to me realizing the time has come for me to do a podcast episode specifically on bed sharing. So we will be getting to that soon to talk about how to take the evidence that we know, reduce the risks. What are the risks? How do we make bed sharing safe? How many people are bed sharing? What does that tell us culturally and socially, or in terms of how to approach bed sharing in a way that's supportive of what the reality is? Long and short is, if you have a lot of shame about what's not working, or even about what is working, you're leaking a lot of energy. It's like a leaky tire that constantly needs to be pumped up again. Instead, we want to get you rolling and moving along in a way that you feel good about, and that focuses on what your baby in front of you needs and what it is that you can provide in the best way that you can provide it. I'll add as well, especially when it comes to mental health, I had one of my very first boss as an OT, amazing, amazing woman. I remember her telling me bad advice can be worse than no advice at all. And so when it comes to mental health in particular, I am very aware that it's a very sensitive topic. We want to make sure that we're getting the right information out there. It's why I have hesitated for a long time around really delving into mental health issues. I am not a mental health occupational therapist. That's not my primary training or my focus, but inevitably mental health is a layer that we cover because tired parents are often quite a lot more vulnerable to mental health challenges. My primary goal in last week's episode was to make sure parents knew what some signs were for pursuing more support, whether it's an emergency situation or whether it's a call to book an appointment with your therapist or your doctor. That's really important to me. And because of the sensitivity, it was something that I was hesitant on. And I imagine that if you listened to last week's episode, you can tell that this is a much more vulnerable conversation until I get into the actual sleep emergency part. And so I know that bad advice can be worse than no advice at all. And I want families to be able to get good advice around their mental health. I'm thinking in particular of the annual walk that I
help sponsor and that I participate in, Flora's Walk, where the system failed Flora. The system failed her because she was not given the support and the accurate advice that she needed to be able to get the support that she deserved. Now, the other trend that I notice, not to jump from one topic here to another, but there's a suggestion in social media, and I would call it a trend. People suggesting that sleep therapists or coaches that tell parents to quote unquote do what works is not okay. That if it does not specifically meet the criteria of responsive parenting, of not sleep training, then it's wrong and we should not be advising parents to do it. I'm going to back up a really big step and say, if I had a megaphone, I'd say it. You can do what works for your family and your individual baby as long as it's safe. I think it is wrong to start with telling parents that what they are contemplating doing to support sleep is bad. Let's go back to that discussion around shame. Shame really hides in the dark. And when we can't have honest and open conversations about what strategies you have used in the past, what strategies you're considering now, or what strategies may end up working for you, I think we are failing you in that way. And it really has started to bother me to see this trend on social media, starting right off the bat with saying that parents shouldn't be doing what works for them. What I do believe is that giving parents the knowledge and the perspectives that they need and the support they need reduces the need for more sleep training oriented or separation based strategies in the first place. And that is a better place to start than telling them not to do it and to deny what is working. Because we could flip the coin on that and say rocking to sleep or nursing to sleep or bed sharing is what's working. It's breaking the rules according to some perspectives on the matter, not my perspectives. And so where are we going to get really if we start to tell parents to ignore doing what works and follow these particular rules around what to do for sleep? I think that kind of approach of saying that you shouldn't be doing what works, I think it's wrong. It's not family-centered. It invalidates your experience and it adds to this guilt that you're somehow failing. I also think it is oversimplifying. It's oversimplistic. It reeks a sense of, are you attachment-based enough? And that if you're not, you've got to level up. And I think that is the wrong message we should be giving families who are already stressed, maxed out, and burnt out. It also ignores the nuance of this. If you have sleep trained in the past, you have a place here. If you are contemplating sleep training, you have a place here. It's valuable to me that you have the information you need to make an informed decision, to know what your options are, to be coming to talk to a sleep coach or therapist with as little shame as possible and with the ability to have an open dialogue. So the number of families I work with who have sleep trained in the past and are coming back either with the same child or a new sibling saying, now that we are here in this moment, we don't want to use this strategy again, but we don't have anything in our toolbox as an alternative. Please support us. I welcome that with open arms. And I imagine something about the way that I'm messaging this is getting across because families are quite open about it. I know they still carry some guilt or shame if it didn't resonate with the way that they wanted to parent, or if they look back and realize it may not have worked the way that they had thought it was at the time. But I also, and this may come as a surprise, I also have parents who will work with me and then sleep train. And I could look at this as like, what did I not do to support this family to get through sleep challenges without sleep training? I'm remembering one family in particular I worked with for quite a length of time. I got them to a much better place with the knowledge and support and the tools that I had. Ultimately, they were choosing from an informed place to pursue more behavioral sleep training. I cannot imagine not supporting that family and finding a coach that can provide that for them. It didn't include a toolbox of strategies that I could coach them through. So I got them in touch with someone that I felt would do a very compassionate, developmentally informed approach and give the family what it is that they were asking for and needed. And I think there is no shame in that. And if you're listening and a client and you have sleep trained while we're working together, you know that I hear you and I'm there for you as well. I think when we come to create or increase the amount of shame or guilt that families are feeling as they navigate one of the hardest parts of parenting, twofold, because sleep is one of the hardest ones. And the first 3 years are among the hardest for parenting. I'll say teenage years might be up there too, but that's because I'm starting in our family at a totally different stage of development that I'm having to learn about because it's not part of my wheelhouse either. But certainly those first 3 years and sleep deprivation and sleep development is challenging. I want to speak to something that I alluded to in the last episode as well around sleep emergencies. The measures that you take to get out of a sleep emergency are not permanent. It means that what you're doing to get out of what can feel like a nosedive towards a mental health crisis is not permanent. You can stop whenever and go back to what has worked. You can go back to do what works without any shame that you have given up on something. The point is to do something different to change what is happening. And even just having laid out a sleep emergency plan. So you feel like you need to pull out of this nosedive of overwhelm and fragmented sleep. You lay out how you're going to manage this as a sleep emergency. That alone might reveal some sustainable options to you that you didn't consider. And I talk about some of those strategies in last week's episode. I encourage you to go back and listen. But to pull these ideas together for you, I want to shed or throw off that cloak of shame or guilt that you have about what methods you're using to support your baby. I want you to have the information you need to make wise choices for yourself and your baby. And I want you to be able to prevent a sleep emergency. So let's talk about preventing sleep emergencies. Preventing a sleep emergency includes treating the sleep challenges that you're having with yourself or your baby with sleep support. That may be family members, it may be a coach. It's going to be very different for each family. I, of course, support families through that, and I'd be more than happy to support you if you're feeling like things are getting a little bit hairy and you would like to pull out of that challenging situation with some strategies and perspectives. Second, do what is working. If it's safe and it's working, do it. If you don't feel good about what you're doing, again, go to sleep support, a coach, a therapist to be able to support you in making a plan that's going to work and align with parenting. That's the ideal situation, right? But we often get babies that don't match with what we figured temperament-wise or sleep need-wise. We might be coming into parenting realizing that this idyllic image we had about how we would get through the challenges doesn't look in reality the way that we imagined. I'll add that if it's not working, if something you're doing is not working, change it. You don't need someone's permission. You don't need to check a box on whether it is the right strategy according to other coaches or to an influencer or to a book you've read or a blog you've accessed. If it's not working, change it. If you need support changing it, as I do get a lot of families saying, we know we don't want to do this anymore. It's not working anymore and we want to change it, but we don't know what else to do. That's where sleep coaching can come in. I've said it earlier in the episode, but I'll say it again. Shame hides in the dark. Share your struggle with someone that you trust, whether that is a family member, whether that is a therapist, your physician, a sleep coach. As a sleep coach and an occupational therapist, I have heard a lot, and I am there for families to unburden them from the shame that they feel about doing what is working or about that shame that things are harder than they expected, that shame that this shouldn't be challenging. If I love parenting, then this shouldn't feel this hard. If I love my baby, then this should be easy. And last, I'll say look for the helpers. This is a line pulled from the wonderful Fred Rogers. Look for the helpers. There may be helpers there that you have not accessed or paid attention to or realized that they're there, whether it's through a supportive, not a negative, but a supportive online group or Facebook group. Leave the ones that are not supportive. Leave the ones that are negative. Leave the ones that use shame or guilt to manipulate your behavior or your choices. Access and book a call with a sleep coach that resonates with you. If that's me, I'm honored to support you. If it's someone else, that's wonderful. The point is to get where you need to go with the support that you deserve. And I will finish off there. I wish you restorative sleep tonight. I am sending best wishes for you to shed any of that cloak of shame that you might have about what's working or what's not working. And I look forward to you connecting with me through the next episode of the Baby Sleep Connection podcast. Until then, bye for now.
Thank you for joining me on this episode. I do hope that you found the information and perspectives in this podcast episode helpful to you as you navigate your baby's sleep development. Of course, this podcast provides general information and it isn't tailored to your family's reality or the specific needs of your baby. If you're concerned about your baby's sleep or health, be sure to reach out to your healthcare provider. If you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and you need a place to feel nurtured and reassured, you can find me on Instagram at familysleep.ca. Until next episode, look for the connections that support you and your baby.